Hello, 'tis I, Nine Buddy. I have actually just moved to somewhere else for Halloween because my neighborhood does not get that much trick or treaters. So, anyways, I'm here gonna present my story. The Whistling Death. 9/15/1812. Russian camp a few kilometers southwest of the burning city of Moscow and close to the city of Kugela. The Russian soldiers are relaxing. Sorry, I'm a bit pissed that the wind is blowing it away. I think it's the wind. Where a musketeer that's going back to Kugela. The rifleman was coming back from the Baltic Fleet, and so is the seaman with two sappers. A high-ranking officer. They were drinking some water when they heard a fifing or a whistling of a song. The rifleman went out to the source of it. 4 hours have passed. Rifleman is nowhere to be found. Whistling is still there, and the officer is going insane. He picks up his flintlock, but the music stops. The officer breaks down and cries. The next morning, the group heads out for Kugela, and they are now at the edge of a forest. They hear it again, the whistling. It is fainter than before, but they cross the edge. They cross the edge, and they cross the edge, and they head onto a hilly area. When they look back, the forest has something off about it. It looks is not what's wrong. It is almost as if something is looking at them. They all look back. The eyes are looking back at them. They run all the way until dusk. They are now on the outskirts of Kugela. They wake up to screaming. The sappers have been killed. Their arms and legs cut open before their head was chopped off. The survivors run back to the city and bang on the door. They heard it. They heard the fifing. They heard it. The fifing or whistling is right behind them. When they look back, the musketeer is dead. His scalp cut across the rim, and his eyes have been plucked out. The thing that is whistling, it has the eyes plucked out and the body cut open. The middle of the face has the eyes rejoined to form another eye that looks onto the survivors. The mouth has been stretched beyond recognition. The fife it is holding is normal. The officer pulls out his flintlock and points it at the thing. It disappears before he could even. Aim. The knocking is responded to by a man opening the door. He was a priest, and he let them inside into a church. The door open. He let them inside into a church. Inside, they gave them food and water. At the gate, there was a knocking in soft tune. A man opened the door, and he was dead. Note for next section, I actually forgot to write it completely on the back, I thought that I did, but yeah, I'll have to fill in the story from there. The man was ripped open with guts spilled on the ground, with the mouth pulled beyond recognition, and yeah. In the church, the two survivors and the priests were heard, and the church, the two survivors and the priests, a whistling could be heard. I forgot to add a comma or semicolon. The three people were taken aback when the officer takes the flintlock and aims at the door. "Are you okay?" the priest asked. The officer does not respond. Well, okay, so this next part, as I said earlier, I did not write down. It was on accident. So, yeah. So I'm just going to recite it from memory. May get some things wrong or stutter or something like that. So what happens next is that the priest lets them stay overnight in his church, but the priest's house is like right next to it or inside the church. I don't know yet, but basically what happens is that the priest at night opens his door to whistling. He goes down the hall and he finds the officer. His head was cut across the rim, his mouth was foaming, his hands were whistling a tune. His mouth was whistling a tune with his hands looking like they were playing the fife. His chest was cut open just like that of the monster. He had a flintlock pointing straight at his head. The priest moved the flintlock and he instantly died. So, the next section is in the morning. The priest buries the body before tending to the seaman. Seaman wakes up after the body is buried. The priest gives him, of course, Russian breakfast, and then the seaman goes back home eventually. It is just stated that it's not like going into detail or anything, but after that, what happens is that the seaman is back at it comes back after 5 years, and he encounters the Whistling Death inside forest in which there's a duel. The Whistling Death and the Seaman duel together before the Seaman gets the upper hand and destroys his fife. The Seaman goes back to Kugelo, and eventually one day is on his deathbed. 1834. 20 long years since he came into contact with that thing in the forest. He's surrounded by his friends and family. Well, not friends who died, but friends like I don't know, his best friend or something. Anyways, so yeah, he looks out the window and he sees, he figuratively sees his friends from 22 long years ago, quote unquote beckoning him to come to heaven. And then he looks at his family, smiles a bit, talks, and then he looks back out the window. There he is, the Whistling Death, right at his window. He just starts screaming, he looks back, points at the window, and then dies. His cause of death was the reason why he was on his deathbed, not any gruesome act. The finale. The Seaman's funeral is being held. and his family and friends can swear that they hear a faint whistling background. Anyways, it skips to 1943, I think, where basically it's Operation Barbarossa. The Nazis invade the Soviets, and what happens is that there's a Russian sniper who's on an outlook. He hears a whistling. He turns around